Okay, the mechanical principles. It's everything that we've been doing in all the other conversations about bending corners, okay? So, good layout, good meticulousness, good creeping up on me. Good folding of line. You know, if you fold and you're slightly off the line, those kinds of things can all cause you problems. So, on this particular one, instead of collaring this way, I'm going to collar this way. It's basically the same thing, but slightly different dynamic. And I'm also going to wrap it, that's actually slightly over. This will be interesting. It's a little bit thicker across here. I'm going to say that I'm about 1/8 of an inch broader, which is going to make things a touch, maybe a 1/16th. Touch interesting. My joint might not fold quite perfectly. But I'm going to use the piece as my former, okay? Rather than where before we were using a separate piece to form, I'll actually use the piece to form this one. So, same principle, we're going to use exactly the same material, 4 inches, but we're just going to call this 1/2. So, exactly the same construct as before. We have collar going all the way around, folding on the top, and that will be our nice lat joint. As I say, you can play around with different joints. You can do your butt joints, you can do the scarf joints where they come in side to side. I have just found over the years that this seems to be visually the most adequate for all possibilities. If you're going to forge weld it also, this one's probably the easiest to forge weld. You know, forge welding a butt weld on top of something is a little tricky, and the same with the scarf. So, you know, go for the lap. Anyway, so 1 inch, 1 inch, 1/2 inch. That's kind of crazy, is that? 1/2 inch and 1/2 inch, so that will give us our 3 plus the 8s on each corner, which will give us our 3.5 total length. And then because we're overlapping by 1/4 inch on either end, it's going to be an extra 1/4, which should give us, give or take, 4 inches overall length. Double check it just for the heck of it, and 4 inches overall length. I've got about 1/2 inch, 5/8 scarf on these. So, do my layout, find my center. I am exceedingly lazy about finding center, so I thank my grandfather for this wonderful gift. Mr. Johnstone showed me a little trick many moons ago, and somehow or other it has paid me off very well ever since. So got my lines pretty well there. That's guesstimative layout. Once upon a time we didn't have rulers all over the place and all these calibrations, and yet they built beautiful pieces of architecture that are standing way longer than anything we'll build to this modern day. So, I don't know, pretty much reckon those old boys got it figured out. Got my crease line. I'm actually using a slightly radiused edged chisel, so all it does is it marks it in the middle. It doesn't mark out to the outer corners. That if I went all the way out to those outer corners, I could get migration of the crack, as it were. So could use a dull face chisel. This is just what I had at hand. But don't go in there and put yourself in a giant gash and then wonder why your collar wound up in 2 pieces. Same thing for your internal corner here. If that internal corner is razor sharp, it can cause you problems. So just be aware of that. Let it soak in nicely, and then do this fold, and then my next fold will be the other way, going this way around. So I'm doing that one first, and then I'm going to do that one second. To close it. To buck this material, because I'm going to have a leg which is basically a 1 inch long leg hanging out over here. So, yeah, one and a quarter inch long leg. So I want to make sure that I have distance here. So I'm actually going to have to block it out, something like that, in order to get my distance for that leg to fold. And for the lower leg to be supported so that it's not actually coming out of alignment, it's actually pressed into. We'll get on to those details. Moments like these are when I wish I'd put my glasses on. I could actually see. Good. Seating it nicely on that corner. If you want to get really finicky with these things and kind of buck the sides of them a little bit to take out swelling, you can do. For this exercise, I'm not going to bother. I should have a good fold. Alright, that folded well. I actually crept ever so slightly past my mark. See that? So if I'm expecting this leg to now be about 1/8 of an inch off because of progress. That's what it is. So my next setup, I'm going to pull this off so I can handle it. My next setup is going to be that fold there. So I need to be able to support here, be able to support on the lower side as well. So go well there, go well there. See how far that pushes me up. And probably need another inch, so I'll grab another one of those. Back in a moment. Grab two, because if I'm grabbing one, I may as well grab an extra. Oh, too high. This is where it gets all kinds of stupid jiggery codes. That should be right. It's a little bit on the high side. I'm not quite supported on that back line. It's really nice if I can get full support into that back corner, or at least within 1/8 inch of it. So switch that one out for this one, see what that does. That might be a little better. Yeah, I'll make that work. So I'm still a little too low, unless I can find something 1/4 inch or so. Scrap pile. And if you're going to be doing a lot of the same thing, you'd obviously build yourself a very nice setup where you have all the correct size blocks and all that kind of stuff to make your life really easy. So that should work. It's not sketchy at all. Yeah, that's pretty nice. If you look at that alignment, it's almost spot on. Okay, heat it up, time for the fold. My distance there is set up nicely. prep yourself well so that you're not thinking too much when it's time to work. That's one of my favorite things, is just whenever things are getting hot, you should be thinking about what you're doing, getting yourself prepared well for what you're about to do, so that when you start doing, your brain can be left behind and you just get on with it. Otherwise, trying to learn new skill sets in the middle of trying to do something, or trying to invent a process in the middle of trying to do something, is often not the best way to do it. It's how we end up getting flustered and burning ourselves. It's really nice if you have a little roll around cart that you can put all your tools on. Leave ours is wound up outside or something. We'll switch to a small pair of flat bits, so I have good control. The flat bits are nice rather than bolt jaws. If you look at the bolt jaws, they're kind of impinging in that general vicinity, where this kind of holds a little bit to the side, a little bit more appropriate. So that one into position. I suppose I'll flip it the other way around. Fold on the back, lock in, tighten everything up, and fold. Really underutilized tool, the set hammer. Everyone's like really obsessed, especially in the knife community, about flatters. Man, set hammers are way more exciting than flatters. You can do so much more with them. Maybe we'll do a whole series on silly things you can do with a flatter. Release it. Don't get yourself into a position that you decide to brand yourself. Throw it on the floor. And now I'm in a position to fold this leg next, followed by this leg. Easiest way to do this is leave it in situ as is right now, and heat it with a torch. So now I want to buck everything to the correct height to support up to this edge, so I can get the torch in there, raise it up a little high, get the torch in, fold, fold. That's looking good. So, that will be a pretty good width, and no, that's not going to work. So I've got to make sure that my vise can still close. It's about the same width, so that'll work well. And height-wise, maybe one more of those. Might be a little too high, yeah it is. Let's see what that one does for me. That's pretty good. So, a little bit of jiggery pokery to get all of that in the right place, but it'll be alright. And I want to get the block to be underneath my center line here, so I'm going to just scooch that over a touch. There we go. Down. That's the flat of the fold done, and I want to get that angle to sit down well. that will work. I'm gonna have a quick gander at it because everything just shifted out from underneath me, has set still. And this is where it is nice to have a single continuous block for supporting so all your bits don't move around, but that is in good stead. See what happened here? Because that block shifted out, my piece slid up and the edge of the jaw bit in, took a little bit out of that material. That'll be a file fix, but you know, what I love about these videos is because they are so raw, it doesn't really matter if little things like that happen, because those are wonderful lessons for you guys. On it, back into the block, give it a little push down again and then fold over the last of it. You remember I was saying that I was expecting it to be about an 1/8 of an inch or so too short. And there you are, you can see it. It does create a lap, but I would have loved that to have come back to about here. So it's closer to 1/4 inch really. But principle being, that'll be how you'd fold up around the actual bar stud that you want. And you know, watch out for horrible things like that. Nice little details. But that would be what I would classify as a sketch for the idea. So if I had made a whole bunch of pieces like this and they were going to be collared together, that would be my sketch piece. I'd go, oh, okay, dumb thing, make sure I've got the right size block for in there at the bottom to support it. My collar in this dimension needs to be added an extra 1/4 inch, so extra 1/8 inch either side. And make sure I fold in the right place. Though, kind of interestingly, that fold, even though this leg was too short, that fold was almost centered. So, you know, you can play around with those things if you visually want that fold to be in the center rather than off to one side. Okay, cool. So that's collaring in a nutshell. And don't be surprised by all the bits being hot. Done that a couple of times.